Welcome to Early Intervention Matters, the podcast that helps parents, teachers, and health professionals understand the diagnosis, treatment, care, and support of children with autism, ADHD, Tourette's, and other neurodevelopmental challenges. Your host, Dr. Inyang Takon, is a consultant neurodevelopment pediatrician, and she will provide insight through interviews, answering questions, and breaking down complicated topics. By sharing stories from parents and professionals in the field, we hope to make sense of what can be an overwhelming topic. Early intervention is crucial with children with developmental difficulties. Yes, early intervention matters. And now, here's your host, Dr. Inyang Takon.
Hi, welcome to Early Intervention Matters, and this is a podcast where for parents, professionals, and anyone that's passionate about helping children thrive. We know that children do present with differences, and every child's story can change. So the mission for this podcast is to raise awareness about the different neurodiversity presentations, help parents get information and know how to support children as well. So thank you for joining us today. I'm Dr. Inyang Takon. I'm the host of Early Intervention Matters podcast. And I'm happy today to have Onyi Udoji all the way from Nigeria. We usually welcome guests from all parts of the world, and I'm very passionate about developmental services in Africa and Nigeria. So I'm really pleased to have Onyi here with me. I connected with Onyi on LinkedIn, where I saw all the great work she was doing. And I knew that it was very important that we got her on. So, Onyi, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Good. Onyi, you wear a lot of hats. When I look through your profile, you wear a lot of hats. You're an educator, Montessori expert, teacher trainer, education consultant, and you're doing quite a lot in the space in Nigeria. So, do you want to tell our audience about you? Because many of them will be coming across you for the first time. Do you want to explain all the different things you do to our audience?
Yes, I would. So my love for children is the bedrock of everything I do. I was a child that just wanted to teach, wanted to interact with human beings. As early as I can remember, I would get my dolls, line them up, and try to teach them, So growing up, that has always been my number one goal. So I started off in education, my first degree. And from there, I decided where I wanted to specialize more in Montessori and then went on to child development. Particularly, I want to see a better society for children with neurodiversity. And that is what propels me more than anything.
Thank you so much. So, and how have you evolved into your different roles? So, as teaching and a trainer, how did all those different roles evolve?
Okay, so after my first degree, during my first degree, to be honest, I started training because in most Nigerian universities, towards your final year, you have teaching practice where you go teach for the whole year and get that experience. So after that, that made me really excited to start actually doing this as a full-on career. So I started taking train the trainer courses to get myself the skills of training, especially training adults. And I did a lot of courses. I started with training Jolly Phonics and Jolly Grammar, which is quite popular in Nigeria now. And from there, it just went on. I kept learning new things, impacting new things, and the learning will never stop.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. That's wonderful. So, in terms of the Nigerian system, what led you to setting up Chelis Group, which in Nigeria is a leading group of education companies? What kind of drove you? What was the reason that made you go into setting that up?
Okay, so Chelis Group was set up by my mother, and it started up with about 3 companies within the group. Chelis Bookazine, Chelis Education Consult, and CSCDC. So when I joined the family business, I looked around, looked at the gaps, looked at what could make more impact in the education industry. And so I started to set up companies on my own within the group. So I started with Neo Montessori Life, which is Africa's first international Montessori magazine. I started with Chelis Studios because I felt so many parents want to learn, they want to know better, but they don't have the time. We live in such a busy society. But when courses are online, available for them to take at their pace, there's no strict timing, it makes learning easier. And that has filled so much gap because a lot of parents know better now and can do better because of the courses. So over time, these new companies within the group have come up and have grown as well.
So how did you build neurodiversity? How did your interest in neurodiversity show up in the group, and what's being done there?
It shows up in, I would say, in everything. It's a huge part of the conversation. So when I'm thinking of the courses to create or mapping them out, I don't look at neurodiversity as like a side dish or something that it's not that important. It's built into the courses because any parent taking our course could be a parent of a neurotypical child or a neurodivergent child. And I want them to be able to relate to whatever they're learning. I don't want them to feel left out or feel like, oh, this isn't for me. So everything we do, even down to sort of books we import, we look out for things that have more inclusion in them. You know, the trainings we have, because we do in-person trainings as well as online trainings. And so it's part of the conversation. I like to hear how teachers are, being inclusive in their classroom, keeping that conversation constantly going is how we incorporate it.
That's really good. I think I like the way that you are educating parents have that opportunity to learn, because I think that provides a way for them to understand neurodiversity. As we know, there are lots of challenges in Africa and in Nigeria about the acceptance of neurodiversity. What's been your experience in terms of, obviously, we know now that neurodiversity is increasing in terms of, I mean, we're picking up more children who are neurodiverse. Have you seen that trend in Nigeria? Have you seen a lot more neurodiverse children in the schools in Nigeria?
Yeah.
And do you think that they're being recognized?
I do see an increase, and I feel like on one hand, there could be truly an increase. On another hand, there could really just be an improvement on diagnosis and a wider acceptance, a wider willingness of parents to go get diagnosed, get their children diagnosed. So in the classrooms, however, even though a lot of schools are making a lot of effort, but what you see is not really inclusion, it's more of integration. So you get into the classroom and you see most of the children sitting together, listening to what the teacher is saying. And usually in the corner, you would see the children who have, neurodevelopmental issues, and they would have one teacher they will call a special teacher with them. And so there's no togetherness. It doesn't feel like the child is being included in the whole classroom. It feels as though, it's kind of like to tick off a box that, yes, we offer this. And it's one of the things that when I go for school observations, for some time to time, the schools I consult for would ask me to come and take a look. And whenever I see that, it just breaks my heart because the child will not feel included, He will feel like he's not interacting with his peers, he's not being asked to do what they're doing. I understand that they learn at different paces, but there's a way to get them together. And that's what's really missing.
Thank you. I think that's really good that you are making people very much aware of the need to include children. So when you started your educational, because obviously you did an educational degree and went on further, what was the point that you reached that you decided that neurodiversity needed to feature a lot more in your work?
I feel For me, that point came rather early. I was saying I was about 7 to 8. I have a cousin. We're the same age, just a few months apart. And growing up, I never noticed anything or thought anything was different about her until one particular day. We were on holiday, and so we went to visit a family friend. And at that point, my cousin had like if she asks you a question and you answer, she would ask why. And when you answer, she would ask why. So that was the pattern at the time. And she asked this lady a question. The lady answered, and she asked her why. And the lady snapped at her so sharply. And I remember looking at the lady, feeling upset, wondering why she's treating my cousin that way. And the thing bothered me for some time. So my aunt sat me down and explained to me that your cousin learns differently. She doesn't learn the same way you do. And so a lot of people may not understand her, but we're her family. And so we have to keep trying to understand her. And at that point, I remember my feelings changed from sadness to more of confusion. I felt in my 8 year old mind that because someone is different does not mean they should be treated in a negative way. That's the beauty of it. If we're all the same, that's so boring. And it didn't make sense to me. And it's just always something at the back of my mind. And because we're really close, we talk every single day, even up until adulthood. It's something that drives me. I think of the children, the next generation and generations to come. I want them to know it's okay to be different. I want society to be ready for them. You don't need to know the diagnosis of this child in order to treat them well. Treat all children well. Children are different, and have an open mind.
That was such I mean, to think that that made such a difference to you from 8 years old and you still remembered that and that's had an impact on you. So it just shows that, you were very passionate about this and it's kind of helped your life journey and the work you're doing, which is really impressive. And thank you so much because when I was there in Nigeria, as part of when I was doing my postgraduate training there, as part of my work there, we had to do a dissertation for the last part of our fellowship. I remember doing some work on children's vision and going to primary schools to see children in the community and checking their vision. And I was astounded about the number of children in the schools who couldn't see, but they were in the classrooms. And a lot of them were being penalized by the teachers. They were being beaten. They were being, shouted at because people just calling them names, whereas this child could hardly see the board. And I remember having to pick out those children and refer them to get their vision checked. And it really broke my heart. It's one of the things that was my primary driver as well for neurodevelopmental disorders. And also for the fact that when I was working, I worked at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, where I did my fellowship training to become a consultant. I remember lots of the children that we used to see, at birth who would come back with developmental delay or differences, and we could not really identify why they were behaving in different ways. We couldn't help them, and that was in the hospital. So there are things like that that was on my memory that made me that when I came out, I decided to specialize in neurodevelopmental disorders to learn more. And when I look back, I see that there are many children I could have done something about, I could have helped, but I was unable to do that. And it just breaks my heart as well. So I understand how, that memory you had then, how it shaped you and continue to shape you. So thank you for acting on it and taking it on. So tell me about stigma. So the perception before is people didn't like it when a child is different. From some families will not take the children out. I've seen adults from Africa, from Nigeria, who have only had their diagnosis after so many years. It's taken them so many years before they've understood themselves. It's they now look back and see that they could have done so much, much better if they knew things that were if they understood themselves and knew how to learn and what to do about their conditions, even ADHD, if they had treatment. And I know of many young people as well who, when you look back, you then have an understanding of what was wrong and could have been rectified. And that's one of the things that makes me passionate about this, because it doesn't matter whatever social class you are, the problems are the same. So what's the situation now?
The situation now is kind of a mix, and it differs based usually on social class, which is unfortunate, but it's the current situation. So when you look at people from the higher social class, because of increase in exposure, increase in wherewithal to actually pursue what is wrong, they are more accepting. They are more able, and the stigma or the superstitious beliefs don't really affect them because most people would not say it to their faces. So because of their social class, they're far removed from that those common issues. For the middle class, it's a mix. A lot of them try to pursue it as much as they can and as much as they can afford, given limited resources. For some, due to either cultural beliefs, religious beliefs, do not pursue it. And it's heartbreaking because you then have late diagnosis when the early years have passed, where that is when a lot of progress can be made, a lot of years of trauma on the child because of so many bad experiences, not understanding themselves, not knowing why they're different. And it then kind of makes the parents feel this sort of regret or blame themselves, but it is a very common pattern, especially with neurodevelopmental disorders that have physical like symptoms. So, for example, I have a client whose child has Down syndrome. And of course, at the point of birth, that is usually talked about. However, to start physio, to start therapy was a problem due to the same stigma. You know, it's in your face, but the stigma has such a strong hold on certain people because of their culture or their direct background. And so now the child is about 9 years old and just starting therapy. It's very difficult, very uncomfortable. And, let me say, there's certain developmental goals that will be much harder to hit. And it's really heartbreaking, and everyone is trying to do the best they can. But this is why early intervention matters. He would have had a much better experience, and so would she have. She would be seeing the improvement. She would be seeing him getting more independent, and that would help her in the long run. But now it's difficult, it's traumatizing, but still we must continue because he needs our support.
Yeah. Have you tried to speak to some of these parents to find out what they are really worried about when they don't take on the therapy?
A lot of them, like in this particular case, is usually family, different opinions. This person saying this, maybe religious opinions as well, that if you believe, you don't need to seek help. You just need to believe and your child will be fine. And so that belief is very, very tricky because we are all religious people, but still, you should put in the effort. We have the wherewithal, we have the knowledge, we should make our own moves as well while hoping for a good turnout.
Yes. And have you been able to reach out to the religious bodies to do some work with them about neurodiversity?
Well, the only religious body that has been open to that is the Catholic Church. I've done a few talks, still in the beginning, had like a parent, an intending parent. We had like a tea, breakfast kind of discussion. We talked about neurodiversity. We talked about the importance of starting early to understand. So that went really well. And we had the full support of the priests. But I've not gotten any positive response back from other religious bodies.
I think that would be really good because I completely agree with you, and I know what you're talking about. We have the same problem here. It's not because it's in Nigeria. We still have Africans and people from our society who, even though they're not in Nigeria or in Africa, they still hold on to those beliefs. So sometimes it can be difficult to reach out to these families to let them know that their child needs help. So I have seen that in my clinical practice where they're being referred and the parents are not open to have the assessment, some of it for different reasons, a lot of it, religious reasons. They've said, no, there's nothing wrong. We have faith the child would do well. So it's interesting that no matter where they are, even where the resources are there, they're not accessing that because of their beliefs. So we can see that belief is a really strong part to play in these conditions. Would you be able to talk about any success stories,
Yeah, I would start with the success story of why this all came to be, which is my cousin. She's doing very well. In fact, she has her own apartment. She has a job in a flower shop, and she loves it. I'm really so proud of her and how much effort my auntie puts into getting her as much support. She still goes to therapy. She does speech therapy. She does different activities to, keep her more independent and also help her process the different feelings and different, aspects of being autistic. And I'm really so proud of her. Other success stories, one particular one comes to mind because I spoke with the mom this morning. So her son has a diagnosis of ADHD. It came not as early, but early enough. She too was kind of a bit unsure about going forward to get him assessed, but she got over that quickly and did get him assessed, and he's doing really well. He's entering secondary school now, and she was just feeling so proud, so emotional, in a good way. And so we had a lovely chat this morning, and I was just so happy. And this is the reason why these children having better experiences, being able to understand why they feel the way they do. A lot of frustration gone. A lot of the times, I feel like the fear people have about being labeled is actually freedom. Because when okay, this is what I'm dealing with, I'm not alone, but I'm dealing with this thing, there is a sense of strength you draw from that. But when you don't know why, you don't know what's happening, you don't even have the words, that to me is worse. It's worse.
Yeah, definitely. And it's lovely to hear the success that's coming out of the work that you're doing and also the good news and the feedback from parents who have been able to see their children going on the right path and things. Do you ever hold talks to get those parents to come and give talks and feedback? Because it would be good for other parents to hear.
I would definitely look into that. It would be a good idea. Because hearing fellow parents talk
I think it would
about
be good
it,
would motivate parents to go along and do things. Yeah, it would really be good. It would be great. Yeah. So what is your message to families, parents who are listening? What is your message for families who are listening to this?
Okay. I would say for the parents, because the parents are always the strongest hit by diagnosis, I would say they should first start by taking a deep breath. I know the thoughts in their mind. In fact, so many thoughts that are conflicting, so many, could this happen? What will happen? But I want them to first just take a breath and realize that, yes, this is the situation, but there is hope. Okay. We are in 2026 and the world is filled with people who are passionate and trying to improve your child's life. We are working constantly to find ways to improve their lives, and we are there for you. We want to help. And there are other parents who have gone through what you've gone through, And they're also there. The community with parents, children with neurodevelopmental issues is quite strong. They are there for you, no matter how busy they are. They drop you a message or a voice message. Don't feel alone. Don't feel defeated. There is hope. There is actionable plans, and don't feel like you don't need help. Be open to help. Be open to explaining to your family. A lot of people, what stops them from action is they don't know. If you explain to them, your village grows bigger, because they say it takes a village. So it grows bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
In my family, we had not heard about autism before, especially like my grandparents and all. But once they understood, okay, this is what this means and this is what she needs, everyone pulled together, because that love is number one. So explain to the siblings when they're old enough, explain to the cousins, and you will be pleasantly surprised how people will rally together to support you.
That's great. I'm just listening to you, and I'm saying that we have to do a lot of work with enabling communities and families to understand, maybe doing it in a way that, doing a program, educational program as well for families of people, wider families, extended families. And maybe when we do talks, encourage other families, not just the parents, to attend, because we can see that where there's that community support, then it is better for the child to be supported within the family.
Yes,
We
definitely.
have to look at that very seriously, because we can see that a lot of stigma is hindering people from coming over to get assessed or even accept therapy. How accessible are the assessment centers for people when they want to get assessed? Where do you usually signpost families to?
So I send them to most of the hospitals are on the island, however. That's one major thing. A few of them are on the mainland, but there should be more, So hospitals like Educator, Reddington, Coptic Hospital, but on the mainland, which has a lot of families, they don't have enough. So either they don't have enough or they are not as well known. It's possible they do, but they're not just well known. And so parents, sometimes if you have the hassle of going through the Lagos traffic to go somewhere, it gives them like something to procrastinate about. So if we had more options, it would definitely help. It would also help with follow-ups, because even if they make up their mind, come all the way to the island, how about follow-ups? How about, so we definitely need more and specialized places for assessment as well, because our hospitals are quite busy. And so a lot of the times that aspect of accessibility is not put in place, because you have children who are easily overstimulated, and the hospitals are so rowdy. So it now kind of makes the hospital trip an unpleasant one.
Yeah, I think that's the we need, and a lot of these places you've called, a lot of them, are expensive, isn't it,
Yes,
for
they
the
are.
families? So it's only the families with resources. So the government hospitals, are they doing those assessments?
To the best of
Yeah.
my knowledge, some are, but government hospitals come with so much hassle. And because of that, even if you were to suggest it to a parent, you would just imagining the stress of it all, you kind of hesitate. So if there could be government hospitals with that specialization, where we know that, okay, the experience of going there will be better than the big hospitals where they send you here, send you there. You're so stressed out before you get to even see the doctor. So I feel like those would really go a long way. With trained staff
Yeah.
who know why the parents are there and make the place accessible enough.
The staff you train in school, have you trained them on the recognition of the symptoms and the screening? Do you teach them about that?
Yes, I do. A lot of schools don't yet see the importance, but I still find a way to weave it into most of my trainings, because I'm not doing it for the school's benefit, I'm doing it for the children's benefit. So even though they may not sign up for that course, I always make sure to mention it because, having just one teacher in a grade or in a set that understands how to look out for the sign is not realistic. That one teacher doesn't spend enough time with the children. It's the teachers who teach them on a day-to-day basis. Even the assistant teachers, the ones who, help them with other tasks, they all need to be aware, and a lot of the, the parents who come, is through the teachers. The teachers would notice something and talk to the parents. And then from there, they get to know and ask around.
Yeah, I think it's so important, and I like what you've said that it has to be the whole school. Everybody, it shouldn't be reliant on just one teacher and all that. I think it would be good to be able to help them, to use the screening. Do you give them questionnaires to help with the screening?
Yes, I do. Yes, for the full course on that, I do. Yes.
Okay, I think that's really good. In terms of we've talked about the parents, we've talked about the support in this society. Again, another message for the parents. Some parents are told by the teacher their children are slow, they're stubborn, they're stupid, using all these negative words. What would you say to that parent who is always receiving those kind of feedbacks? Because again, we have to change the language that teachers use on students.
Yes, we do.
And I'm sure that's a big part of the work that you have to do, because when I remember the kind of words that some teachers use, that can be really negative. And we need to change that narrative. But for parents who are receiving that message, what do you think? How can they approach that?
For parents, I want them to understand that those labels are simply a teacher not understanding the child. A teacher who has been taught in a cake method, a cake way of looking at things, and so simply doesn't understand the child and sees traits that are different as slow or naughty or being petulant, whereas what is missing is that understanding. A teacher who truly knows modern methods, a teacher who truly cares and is passionate about teaching, even if they feel this child is showing signs of being naughty, their first instinct is not to label the child, it's to know why. Why is this child refusing or seemingly refusing to do these things? Is there another reason? What could be the problem? You hear these labels a lot from teachers who are teaching just to get by. They don't really care about teaching, or they feel like the methods of back then are the best, and so they don't try to improve themselves. So those labels, first of all, you throw them out of your head and try to understand why, the story behind those behaviors they're saying, the story behind those labels. Try to observe your child, talk to the school if there is someone who can observe your child better than their current teacher, even if it means moving to another class, that is another same grade, but in another class. It's worth it because these labels, children hear them. It affects their confidence, it gives them anxieties, it makes school such a terrible experience because the child in their mind may not be doing anything on purpose, but they just know that anything they do, their teacher would call them something. And so even for the child to explain to you what the difficulty is, or he doesn't even feel like, because maybe another label will come when he does so. So it's a terrible cycle that needs to be broken. And teachers need to unlearn that completely. Nobody needs labels, especially not children, because with children, they're growing. What do we want? We want them to be their best self. If you label them, how does that help? It's counterproductive and it's just not right. I see that a lot in teachers coming from the traditional method into Montessori, having to unlearn all those things. It's almost like they are born anew for the ones who successfully do it. But a lot of them still hold on to those things, still hold on to the teacher being the main person in the classroom, and the children are just the little ones around them. But we have to change that narrative.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful just listening to your story, your journey, the way you walk through all this. It's just been fantastic. And I'm really pleased that there's somebody driving re-education, improving learning, understanding the big picture of the wider community. And we are happy to support you in your work in terms of helping to build that message. And like I said to you, we would really love to see that message go far and just continue to support other children. One key thing that you have mentioned is teacher education. When you improve the awareness of teachers, improve their understanding, things change. Things change when you do that. And also, like I said, when I was in Nigeria, this was not something that we were more involved in dealing with acute medicine, children coming to the hospital, dealing with diseases, dealing with things that came acutely. People did not really have an understanding of neurodevelopmental conditions. So even amongst clinicians and medical professionals, a lot of them are beginning to understand neurodevelopmental conditions, not all of them. It took me coming to the UK to get further training to really understand the profile. And immediately I was understanding that, I became really passionate about it because I just felt that this is something that was so needed even in Nigeria. And that's why I kept on having that pull to go back and educate and improve awareness. So please continue to do the good work you're doing. You're doing an excellent work. And I just hope that as many people that listen to this, including educators and teachers, as you've heard Onyi say, we need to understand what the children have a reason for their behaviors. If things are not going the way we're expecting, there's a reason why that child is behaving that way. It's for us to understand so that we can support that child better. And as I said at the beginning, every child can thrive. Every child has something unique about them. Every child has a strength. Every child can do well. They need that, just like we water plants from when they're seeds, they need the right support and the right environment within the school setting to be able to thrive. So thank you so much for what you are doing. And
Thank you
do you
so
have a
much.
final word for, yeah, thank you. Do you have a final word for parents and a final word for the audience? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to tell the audience how I would like them to pick one thing, as practical as it could be, that you feel will help people, society, the people in your house, your family, understand neurodiversity more. Whatever it could be. It could be having a little talk, just gisting, you talk about it. Just plant that seed in someone's mind today. If we all make that effort, a lot will change.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Oyi, where can people find you? And people in Nigeria, we're in Africa who are listening, where can people find you
You can find
and
me on
connect with
LinkedIn.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, I use
Yeah.
my LinkedIn a lot to connect with parents and teachers and like minds. You can also shoot me an email. I will have my email probably written.
Yeah. Yes, we will include your details on the show notes so that that can get circulated. And yes, please, we encourage people to share this episode with other families and friends, because the more people hear this, educators as well, the more people hear this, it's a form of education as well to people, raising awareness, because we want to raise awareness about neurodiversity. Children in Africa and Nigeria and rest of the world should not be disadvantaged because of societal beliefs and stigma. They should not be prevented from accessing therapy or accessing the support they need just because of stigma and all those things. So we really encourage people to share this episode with others, and please spread the word. As Onye has said, she said, start from where you are. Tell to somebody about neurodiversity in your family, because once you say that and improve one person's understanding, you'll improve so many more others around. So thank you, Oyin, for a wonderful time. I
Thank you
think it
so
will be
much,
also good
Doctor.
for you to, you're welcome. I just wanted to say think about going on the media as well, doing some media interviews in Nigeria, because I think that a lot of people tune into those stations. I think it would be good for you to ask to be, because this is what we need. We need to improve awareness.
Yes.
We need more understanding. So thank you for what you've done, and we're so grateful that you could join us today.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. As we always say, early intervention leads to better outcome, and early intervention can only be achieved by early diagnosis. So thank you for listening into the series today. I know some of the things we've talked about today would probably have generated some questions or need to seek clarification. So I'm happy to take questions, and I'll invite you to send your questions to eim@drtakon.com. Thank you for listening in.